filed racketeering charges against 61 people accused of involvement with Stop Cop City, a protest movement against a controversial Atlanta police training facility.
Oh, so this article he's reading, this Daily Beast article, is an insane level of Antifa propaganda. You can go to the indictment to see whether these charges that the Daily Beast is making are true, which are not. About, oh, they just arrested these people for handing out cards. They just arrested people for running a bill. All that stuff is a lie. Also, it's hilarious to me that Jimmy is like, you can't trust the mainstream media. The mainstream media tells you something that you don't agree with. You can't trust them.
You got to go to the Daily Beast,
which is a mainstream media outlet, is telling some fucking leftist Antifa nonsense. He's like, oh, well, this is a trustworthy article.
Donor class doesn't want Donald Trump to become president, and he will if he's allowed to run. And so they did this. They did. They're now 4 different indictments, each one more ridiculous than the last. And here, RICO, the Georgia anti-racketeering law, is being used to charge Donald Trump. And now the reason I bring this up is because they're the same people that did that to Donald Trump are using the RICO charges to go after activists from Stop Cop City. So let me just give you the story, and then you can comment on it. So
Sure.
Georgia prosecutors...
Do you know anything about this story?
Stop Cop City, somewhat.
I only looked into this a little bit before this because our good friend FD Signifier
Right.
put out this weird tweet about it, and I was like, what? But he never responded. So he posted this from the Stop Cop City indictment.
Okay.
And here, I'll read what the indictment says, and I'll read what he says, and you try to explain it to me. He said, okay, in the indictment it says, the notion of anarchy, being grounded in an anti-authoritarian mindset, primarily targets government because it views government as unnecessarily oppressive. Instead of relying on a modicum of government structure, anarchy relies on human association instead of government to fulfill all human needs. Some of the major ideas that anarchists promote include collectivism, mutualism, mutual aid, social solidarity, and these same ideas are frequently seen in the Defend Atlanta Forest movement.
Okay.
Okay, what does that paragraph sound like to you?
Sounds like hippie commune bullshit.
Right, but what does it sound like? What does it sound like the purpose of the inclusion of that paragraph was in the indictment?
I have no idea.
Okay. It just sounds to me like they're just describing and defining anarchy and anarchy philosophy.
Okay.
I mean, how else? I don't know how else to interpret that paragraph.
I mean, it's...
They're just explaining what anarchy is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So FT Signifier...
What is he saying
He says,
means?
This is a real excerpt from the Cop City RICO case. I don't know if anyone realizes how dangerous this is.
Didn't strike me as dangerous, no. Why would it be dangerous?
I don't know. I asked him, I said, I don't understand what the danger you're referencing here is. And there was no answer.
Right.
There's a bunch of his followers tried to answer me. They said, they're saying that mutual aid is illegal. That's not what it says. They're saying anyone that involves themselves in mutual aid is going to get arrested by a RICO charge. That's not what it says. Like, it's just, it's wild to me how people cannot, like, the the reading comprehension of the general public is just so disappointing.
That is true, yeah.
I should say the reading comprehension of people that are politically biased is so disappointing.
Well, they're reading it to ferret out something that they can use against their political enemies.
Right. Well, it's just annoying because FD vague posts about this danger, and it's like, what are you talking about? What does that even
question.
mean? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out.
Unlikely.
Oh no, then he later tweeted out. This is funny. He later tweeted out, I won't say much more about Cop City RICO case for my own safety. I don't know what that means.
Oh my goodness. Look, I laughed. If something happens to him, I'm going to feel horrible.
Okay. I just implore people to actually read over the indictment and look at some of the charges in it. It's self-evident what is happening. Please continue to support organizing efforts in Atlanta and abroad. And my video on Monday couldn't be more timely as response to why this is happening. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have a video on it. I'll explain whatever the heck he's talking about. But
I think he's got like 7 or 8 channels. So.
Oh yeah, who knows?
Might want to look around.
Yeah. Well, it's not Monday yet, so we'll see.
Have filed racketeering charges against 61 people accused of involvement with Stop Cop City, a protest movement against a controversial Atlanta police training facility.
Oh, so this article he's reading, this Daily Beast article, is an insane level of Antifa propaganda. I was reading this article, I was just blown away.
Daily Beast is insane.
Yeah.
I can't read Daily Beast without getting a brain hemorrhage.
Right. So this situation, I'll give you kind of rundown because it's going to give you a very biased rundown, was, you probably heard that they're building this police training facility in Atlanta, Georgia, which you would think if you have a problem with policing, that should be a good thing, right? Police
Cop
need to
City,
be better
yeah.
trained, right?
Yeah.
Police need better
Accountability
training.
City, they should call it.
But no, of course, because these people don't actually care about police training. They just hate cops and the idea of police officers, and they want the police abolished. And when they said defund the police, they meant it.
What? I mean, they all backpedaled on it as if it was just a complete misunderstanding.
Oh yeah, we just meant to reallocate funds to social workers or whatever.
Start Therapy City.
Yeah. So essentially, they're building this training facility in Atlanta. They called it Cop City, and this bunch of far leftist and Antifa kind of people have begun protesting against this. And part of the way in which they started protesting against this was like, this thing is in the middle of nowhere, it's in some forested area. So they started to live in the forested area next to wherever this is being built to protest it. And one of the days kind of escalated where they broke through some of the barriers of the construction, and they started throwing Molotov cocktails and fireworks at the police officers that were guarding the facility. And they started burning down vehicles that were being, construction vehicles and, and parts of the building and all this other stuff.
So they're getting training immediately.
Yeah.
Like on the fly training.
Right.
From an invasion.
Yes, exactly. That's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point.
How did it go?
And so, so
did anyone get George Floyded in this exchange?
Well, okay. So, so after this violent protest happened where they burned down a bunch of stuff relating to this facility being built, the police said, okay, we can't let these people live in the woods anymore. Okay. So they started to crack down on all of the protesters, and they kind of went and they rounded them all up and they were kicking them all out of the forest. And one of the people was in a tent, because they're all living in these tents in the forest. And they're all part of this Defend the Atlanta Forest movement. It's funny because, like, when I was reading through the Defend the Atlanta Forest movement, they're like super ultra hippie, like no one deserves this land. This is the forest's land. It's the land of the forest. Like, the ultimate hippie dippy.
Look, if you got a sweet deal going, a sweet rent-free ride hanging in the forest, why are you attacking Cop City?
These people were not living in the forest before. They're living in the forest just to protest Cop City.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought this was like their homestead.
No, and actually, they actually got into physical altercations with like poor and homeless people that weren't living in the forest.
Okay. Oh my! So they're leaning on the marginalized people. They're like, look, this is my free ride, and you guys are messing it up.
Yeah, there's at least one incident I read that was like some person was like trying to go into there to like scrounge around for scrap metal or something, and they were like, get out of here. They're pointing guns at him and they're telling him to get out.
Wow.
But no, yeah, so they're in there to defend this stupid forest, and they're just to get rid of this police training center. And so when the police are kind of like pushing them all out, rounding them all up, there's one person in a tent who refuses to leave, and so they start shooting like pepper balls in the area to try to get them to vacate the tent. And that's when the gunfire starts.
Okay.
And
wow.
So what the police say,
a pepper ball turned into gunfire.
Well, so what the police say happened is that the person in the tent that they pepperballed came out and shot at them.
Right.
And there is a police officer who got shot by this guy. He didn't die, but got shot by this guy.
Okay.
And they pulled the bullet out, and their forensics does match it with that guy's gun that he did have supposedly on him at the time.
Look at this. Forensic evidence.
And that gun he had was registered to him from 2 years ago. So it's not like they just dropped the gun there.
Sounds like he's a shooter.
Right. Now and so the police immediately shot the crap out of this guy. Like, just annihilated him. Now their response is to say, no. He had his hands up and was peacefully accepting arrest when the police just executed him for no reason. And then the police accidentally shot their own guy somehow in the gunfire.
Okay. That's to account for the shot. Well, how did the police shoot their own guy with his gun?
I don't know.
Oh, maybe that's the gun they planted on him.
Well, it's registered to him from 2 years ago, so it'd be difficult.
Who does the registration?
The government. Oh my God, they set it up. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Now, to be clear, maybe they're saying, well, that I don't know what, it's probably not, they probably couldn't match the round to the specific gun. They probably just match it like it's the same type of ammunition that the gun uses. So we'll say, oh, well, the police shot him by accident or something. But that's their argument is the police shot him by accident. It's kind of crazy because the Wikipedia has literal lies about the case. And it was interesting. I was looking at the discussion tab on the Wikipedia edit, and you could see that the main editor of the Wikipedia page for the shooting is obviously some kind of Antifa, communist, socialist infiltrator type.
Of course, it's Wikipedia.
Because the original autopsy said that the coroner said that they didn't see any gunpowder residue on the guy's hands.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone who was against the cops took that and say, aha, that would mean that he didn't shoot anyone. He doesn't have any residue on his hands. Though obviously people point out and said, well, the coroner just said he didn't see it. Like with his eyeballs, he didn't see it. They didn't actually run a test.
Oh, yeah, they didn't do the gun residue test.
Well, they did do the gun residence test after the coroner, and they did find that he had gunpowder. Now, to be clear, that doesn't 100% mean that he fired a gun, but obviously it's another piece in that position. So, and then, the family did some independent autopsy, who they claim that somehow they could figure out by something related to the autopsy that he had his hands up when they shot him. And then the coroner for the state, or the autopsy of the state, said that it would be wildly irresponsible to try to determine, the position of his body when he was being shot in that way, and that they didn't have anywhere near enough evidence to point to that. And then this gets compounded because these were state troopers, and the state troopers don't have to wear body cams. So all this is just,
hearsay.
Not hearsay, but it's all just speculation. But so anyway, so that's this case. That's what this case is.
Sounds crazy.
Right.
Now, how long ago was this?
When did this happen? See, this was this year, and it was on.
I mean, I just hear
it was in March.
Okay, so March. Everyone's talking about Stop Cop City now, though. I didn't hear about this in March. I just started hearing about it.
Well, there's been more movement on it continually, and there's some movement about it recently.
Okay. Cool.
So, and the Daily Beast is running interference with it, and now that because the indictment, I think, came out recently. And now the indictment, and it could be, I don't know enough about the case. They've charged like some they've charged like a crap ton of people. They basically charged every person they possibly could that was involved with this organization, the Defend Atlanta Force organization, together with a RICO charge. And so people are questioning whether that's valid to do or not. I'm looking through the indictment. I think, yeah, some of these people probably are way overcharged. I think you should separate the charges out. People that were actually there, people that are actually burning stuff down, people that are actually managing the fund. I can understand them getting more significant charges than just other people that were maybe at the protest who should get some kind of charge, but I don't think it should be the same level.
Okay.
The list suggests that the case implicates people who have already been arrested on tenuous evidence, like a legal observer who was jailed while monitoring protests, activists who ran a bail fund for other defendants, and a trio of activists arrested while handing out flyers with the name of a cop who killed a fellow protester.
So this is part of why this Daily Beast article is so dishonest. So there was there was a quote legal observer there who supposedly worked with the SPLC. A legal observer is a person who's supposed to go to these protests and it's supposed to tell them, give some kind of guidance about whether their activities they're engaged in is legal or not. This guy was supposedly at the protest where people were throwing Molotov cocktails and burning shit down.
Okay.
I don't know what kind of legal guidance he was giving to people. I'm pretty sure people knew that burning things down was illegal.
Right.
But,
Was he himself throwing Molotov cocktails, or he's just there to
I don't know.
supervise?
I don't know what evidence they have in that regard. They just say that he was there at the protest. They're just basically charging everyone that was at the protest.
Okay.
So I don't know about that. Obviously, being a legal observer doesn't give you magical legal status to participate, but people are complaining about it. The activists who ran a bail fund for other defendants, that is kind of important because part of the racketeering charge against these people is that they had this massive bail fund that they were this is the charge, is that people were donating to this fund not realizing what it was used for because they were pretending, so the state is claiming, they were pretending that they were going to be involved in legal protest against something. And so they basically got hundreds of thousands of dollars from donations, and then they were using this to fund activities they knew were illegal and bailing out people from jail that they knew were going to be committing illegal actions.
Okay.
They did not actually say it was illegal for them to just have a bail fund or to bail someone out from jail. That's not actually an indictment.
What's your take on all this Stop Cop City thing?
I mean, it's all bullshit. A bunch of Antifa gobbledygook nonsense. You should want your police officers to get more training, not less training.
Right. So they're just they just see cops and they just can't help themselves. They have to attack.
Yeah. They're like bulls seeing red.
Right.
Essentially.
How dare they train officers?
Right. Or if they have some problem with like the type of training that's going on, they should be talking about what they think would be, well, this is the problem. What I think would solve the issue, because I think when you have these bad issues with cops, right? Obviously we talked about the case with like the actual corrupt cops in Mississippi, which is a completely different situation. But usually when you have these incidences with cops shooting or beating people, it seems to me to be a case of, human adrenaline gets kicking and people make bad decisions.
Oh, I don't know that that's the situation with the Mississippi cops.
No. That's obviously not the situation. I said that's not the situation.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay. That seems premeditated.
Right. That was premeditated. I'm saying normally when you see these police shootings or these, police attacking people, it's because their adrenaline's all up and they're not thinking well.
Right.
They don't have good training on how to grapple people, arrest people without, maybe putting them in some sort of harmful position.
Right. Yeah.
And I would say that that's at these training facilities, that's what should be being taught, is how to effectively control someone's body without like causing a permanent injury, how to, being in shape so you can do this, and how to control yourself so you don't get into this kind of adrenalized, crazed state. That to me should be what police training across the country looks like.
How to control your emotions, control your elephant.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Control your elephant. So
we deal with that when we debate people, like we're training ourselves.
Right.
If we did it more often, we'd be better at it. If we lined up a bunch of people that were obvious bad faith grifters to debate 5 days in a row.
I don't know if we get better at it if we just slowly drive ourselves.
No. We'd be amazing at it by the end. We'd be Cornell West levels of Zen by the end of it.
Only if you go into it with the idea that that's what you're going to do.
This is why you go into the training with this in mind. I mean, that's the goal. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, obviously, being in a real life situation there's some difference there, because if you're in a training situation, look, I'm dealing with my buddies. The Antifa guys probably helped out because they're like, okay, well, this shit is really happening here.
Yeah, obviously, yes. Obviously, there's always going to be a difference between training and real life.
The Antifa people are so stupid. They go and engage. They go and engage with a bunch of untrained police officers, and some dude gets shot.
Well, no, the people were not untrained. The facility hasn't been built yet, so it's not like these were people training.
So
they're trying to stop the construction of this thing.
They're only building the facility.
Yeah, they're only building it. It hasn't been built yet.
These people are crazy, Sitch.
Right. Yeah, obviously.
What do they want?
They want police to be abolished, Adam.
Look, What they need to do is stop building Cop City and start building a big old jail, and just put all these people, just move them from the forest into the jail.
I agree with that because here's what's crazy, and I didn't know about this till I read the indictment. They talk about how
a jail and or a mental asylum. I don't care which, but go ahead.
In the indictment they talk about how. Do you remember the shooting at the Wendy's, where the guy
fell asleep in his.
Yeah, he was drunk driving.
Right. Drunk driving, fell asleep in his car in the Wendy's. They called the cops and they're like, look, there's a dude sleeping.
Yes. And the police showed up and he seemed totally reasonable. And as soon as they were going to arrest him for drunk driving, he kind of flipped out and he attacked the cops and he stole one of those tasers and he shot the taser at the police officer.
Right.
And so the police shot him.
Right.
And you had idiots like what's his face?
Simping for him, yeah.
From the Daily Show saying, oh my God, couldn't the police have just done something else when he attacked them and stole one of their weapons? It's like,
yeah,
no.
couldn't he have just done something else? I think that guy was on his third strike, which
yeah, maybe.
I mean, everyone runs when they're on their third strike.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you do.
But so after that incident occurred,
have you ever seen an innocent person run from the police?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. But anyway, so after that happened, this was in Atlanta, the protesters burned down the Wendy's.
Oh, I remember that. Oh my God.
Like as if the Wendy's was responsible for this,
Some local businessman, Wendy's, because they're all franchises.
Yes.
A bunch of kids lose their jobs because the Wendy's burned down.
Yep.
It's always insane.
Yeah. And so they didn't just burn down the Wendy's. And this is the part I didn't know about till I read the indictment, which is kind of insane to me. You're familiar with the Chaz, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I lived there for like 6 months.
Yeah, they set up that autonomous zone in Portland, where basically a bunch of like gang members ran this area of Portland under the guise of somehow this is like better for Black people or something.
Yes.
The exact same thing happened in Atlanta. They set up a
autonomous
zone around the Wendy's.
No way.
Yes way.
They're camping out in the burn pit.
Yes, I couldn't believe it. I was like, how did I never hear about this? The media hiding stuff. I never heard about this. They set up an autonomous zone around the Wendy's. And according to the indictment, they said that essentially it ended up becoming run by like a gang. I think they said like the Bloods or something in Atlanta. I don't know. They said it was basically run by a gang. And they said that multiple people, when they drive up to like, because it was like apparently blocking a main road or something. And people would just drive up there not knowing what the heck's going on. And they would point guns at people and tell them to like leave. They're not allowed to enter this autonomous zone. And apparently one mother drove through this checkpoint. They didn't say why.
No way. And they did something to her?
And so they shot at her and they killed her 8-year-old daughter.
Sitch. It's so sad.
And then so but this is what's insane. It took literally an 8-year-old. I don't understand what the hell is wrong
for the police to step in
with these governors or these county commissioners or the police to be so utterly cucked.
They don't want the bad press. They want it just to go away on its own. But an 8-year-old girl has to die for that to happen. That's so sick.
You have a gang has basically grabbed control over a chunk of your city. I'm assuming it's a small chunk, but a chunk of your city around a Wendy's, and you just let it go on, and it went on for some substantial period of time until finally an 8-year-old gets shot, and that's when you have to finally, motivates you to move on this.
It's BS.
It's disgusting. It's totally disgusting. But
so
apparently
sad now.
But
why'd
apparently
you have to do that, Sitch?
But apparently that incident had something to do with the impetus to build this training facility in the first place.
Right. Well, I mean, it was
maybe
obviously
to teach them
gangsters.
to grow a spine. I don't know.
Right.
So obviously it's not the individual cops. It'd be some leadership that would make that decision. But anyway, all cops are bastards. You're not allowed to. There shouldn't be any cops at all. But anyway, let's hear Jimmy keeps simping for Antifa.
Yeah, let's do that.
During protests, activists who ran a bail fund for other defendants, and a trio of activists arrested while handing out flyers with the name of a cop who killed a fellow protester. The RICO charges come as Georgia's RICO statute receives national attention. Donald Trump and a collection of his associates were charged under the state's severe RICO statute last month. The same grand jury that indicted Donald Trump on RICO charges also indicted the Stop Cop City defendants. Are you getting the game now?
I mean, doesn't that mean that
the Atlanta Journal-Constitution report?
Doesn't that mean that they're like based,
unbiased,
unbiased? Yeah. Does that mean they're not biased? I don't know. I don't see what the problem is with that.
Right.
Reported that on Tuesday, the Cop City Vote Coalition, a group that gathered more than 100,000 signatures to put the facility's construction up for a vote this year, condemned the charges as authoritarian measures by Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr. The group also noted that charging documents described the alleged racketeering scheme as beginning before the police training facility was even announced.
So to be clear, that guy that he's complaining about, Attorney General Chris Carr, whose decision it was to use the RICO and all this stuff,
right?
He's a Republican.
Okay.
So this completely undermines his entire argument. His entire argument is that this is some kind of magical conspiracy by the deep state Democrats to stop Donald Trump. And that's why the Democrats are more fascist than the Republicans. And yet the guy he's complaining about who brought these charges against this leftist organization is a Republican. Yeah.
Doesn't have to make sense, Sitch.
Oh, okay.
Just pay attention to the red text.
Okay.
Lauren Reagan, executive director of the...
And also it's hilarious to me that Jimmy is like, you can't trust the mainstream media. If the mainstream media tells you something that you don't agree with, you can't trust them.
You got to go to the Daily Beast,
which is a mainstream media outlet, is telling some fucking leftist Antifa nonsense. He's like, oh, well, this is a trustworthy article.
Yeah, all he does is report from other media. I don't understand how you can say the mainstream press is whack and I use the mainstream press all day to report to you.
Right. Or it just annoys me. You have to be, if you're going to be critical, you shouldn't be critical of the mainstream press, but just don't have your brain fall out when the mainstream press prints something that you want to be true. And that seems to be what everyone does. Oh, this news article says something I want to be true. Oh, the anonymous FBI source says something I want to be true. Well, I guess it is.
Right.
It's hilarious.
I'm skeptical of all this stuff.
Yes,
I mean, obviously you got to go to original sources. Always is the best thing to do. There's oftentimes real footage of the situation that you can look at. There's all these different situations that you can know what the facts are.
Right.
But in a lot of situations, you're dealing with just reporting. And I don't feel like I can really trust any of those situations.
Right.
Civil Liberties Defense.
You're going like to the indictments and stuff like that. So at least it's something that was curated for a judge to look at. So you'd think there's some sort of credibility to the evidence, right?
Well, so you have to be careful because when you look at an indictment, you don't know. Mm-hmm. An indictment is written in a way that it's going to be very biased in the state's favor, obviously. So you have to be careful to not assume.
Okay, so you can't even trust that shit.
Right. Well, but it depends what the argument is. You have to be careful to not assume that what the indictment is alleging is true. But I was reading the indictment not to assume that. I was reading the indictment to understand what the heck these people were doing, which then you look and you corroborate it with other sources and say, okay, well, they did do this protest. There are pictures of them burning shit down. That is not really a question. Blah, 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 blah. But you can go to the indictment to see whether these charges that the Daily Beast is making are true, which are not. About, oh, they just arrested these people for handing out cards. They just arrested people for running a bill. All that stuff is a lie. That's not what they're being charged with. Now you might say, well, the state is wrong. Those charges are overblown, blah, 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 blah. And maybe they are, but that's what the court case will supposedly try to get to the bottom of.
Right. So reporting that now is jumping the gun.
Right. When you try to say, oh, well, they're being charged for X, Y, and Z, and they're not actually being charged for that. That's, you're like, well, that's a lie. So
Right. Okay.
Fund, which has been working in support of defendants, said the scope of the case is designed to dissuade people from supporting the Stop Cop City movement. It's been very clear that Georgia's intentions and how they've conducted themselves regarding the resistance to Cop City has been to try and scare even above ground law-abiding participants from taking part. I think by roping in a legal observer and people running a nonprofit and running a lawful bail fund is absolutely intended to scare people from supporting this cause now and in the future.
I mean, I 100% think that you should be going, if people are running a nonprofit that is supporting illegal behavior that they know is illegal behavior, of course you should go after them. Why would you not? That's insane.
Right.
Oh, I mean, they're Antifa, so it's, you know, it's okay then. They're on the left. They're leftist organization trying to burn down a police training facility from being built. So it's okay. They're a nonprofit. Like just giving them the label of nonprofit gives it some sort of magical immunity shield or something.
So the Chaz is an autonomous zone. There was also an autonomous zone in Portland. The Wendy's autonomous zone was the third one. That was Atlanta, right?
In Atlanta, yeah.
Right. And
where was the Chaz? I thought that was in Portland.
The Chaz was in Seattle.
Oh, okay. There's always Antifa and autonomous zones everywhere.
But the Wendy's autonomous zone wasn't widely reported.
It was not. I'd never even heard of it until I read the indictment.
I hadn't heard of it either until you said it on this very live stream. So
yes.
I think some people might have been confused by that.
Oh, yeah. No. It was not the Chaz. Right. It was just a different one. Yeah.
Yes. It was the Wendy's burn pit autonomous zone that never got named.
I'm sure it had a name. I don't know what the name was, but
which an 8-year-old girl died.
Yes, was killed.
Right.
Was murdered because someone drove through this, area when they were not allowed to.
Right, because the criminals had taken it over, and the police, which I'm sure there's probably a giant lawsuit against the city for not maintaining law and order. I would hope
so.
Which is just like, it's so messed up because these cities don't have infinite dollars from the federal government. Cities collect dollars from property taxes, and they literally can go bankrupt. It's so sad. And then they have to pay out these huge judgments because of this nonsense, because crime is just not handled correctly.
Here's an article from the local Atlanta newspaper. The recently charges, this is in 2021, recent charges announced against someone named Jaron Amari McKinney, the second suspect in the last year's killing of an 8-year-old Secoria Turner outside of Atlanta's infamous Wendy's, has regurgitated this nasty episode of the city's history.
Right. Yeah, sad. Very sad. But, obviously it's right-wing violence that we have to worry about in this country.
Yeah, but and it is kind of ridiculous too. None of this stuff gets talked when they talk about all the right-wing violence, which exists, and they ignore this stuff. So,
right, yeah, no, it's completely one-sided.
They apparently said before this they stopped a bus, a MARTA bus. I don't know what MARTA is. They stopped it was just like the Atlanta bus. They just stopped the bus and they didn't allow it to go on a busy street. They stopped it at gunpoint. Like I said, you can't come through here.
You see these videos of people that are caught in those situations, and it's so terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
You're trapped in your car. You're thinking,
you're
oh,
like,
man,
what is happening here?
They're going to Reginald Denny me.
It says there was a barricade. The driver tried to go around the barricade, which caused Conley, who's charged with murder, to start firing his rifle into the car blindly, and where it struck the little girl in the head and killed her. Nice people.
All right, let's move on. This is depressing.
Yes.
In September of 21, Atlanta approved plans to build a police training facility dubbed Cop City by opponents in the city's South River Forest. The plans were controversial. Approximately 70% of locals who weighed in during a public comment opposed the facility, citing its cost, $90 million, its environmental impact, and its potential effect on over-policing in Atlanta. When the city moved ahead with the plans for construction, activists protested on the proposed construction site. Police shot and killed a protester, Manuel Tortuga Esteban Paez Terán, in January when they accused Terán of firing a gun. Subsequent autopsies have cast doubt on those claims. Soon after Terán's killing, police charged 19 more Stop Cop City activists with terrorism, despite many being accused of nothing more than misdemeanor trespassing around the proposed construction site. In a later crackdown, police conducted mass arrests at Stop Cop City Music Festival, accusing some people of...
Listen, I say the only way to stop these Antifa thugs from trying to burn down property is you have to arrest everyone that's at these protests, even if they're not the ones throwing the Molotov cocktail.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't trespass into private property and hoot and holler and stand around while people are burning stuff down and be like, well, listen, I'm not part of this. Like you're helping provide cover for the people that are burning stuff down. And I said this about the BLM protests when they were going on. I'm like, listen, the first night that people go out there and they say, listen, we're just protesting peacefully against police violence. And then after they protest for police violence, a bunch of other people come and they riot and they loot and they burn shit down. And I'm like, well, okay, those protesters, they didn't necessarily know that was going to happen and that it would be, so I'm not going to put that on their head. But the second night, those same pieces of crap come out and they protest, knowing very well that as soon as the night comes, their protest is going to create cover to allow people to burn and riot and loot. I say, screw those people. They're just as liable at that point because they know it's going to happen. It just happened the night before. And they know it's going to happen again.
Yeah, we didn't have a big problem with property damage here in Los Angeles. I was watching a video, and it was around the time of the George Floyd thing, and we were having Black Lives Matter protests in various parts of the city. And the LAPD had basically created a blockade under this bridge. So they had an overpass and a bunch of cops at one end, and they kind of funneled all the people, about 250 people, under this bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just locked them in there, and they gave every single one of those people like a $650 ticket for protesting without a license.
It's hilarious.
And we didn't have a big problem with property damage in Southern California because LAPD stepped up and took care of business. Yeah.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, I was happy to see that. I was like, yeah, damn right.
Yes.
It's funny because, look, I should have saved the video because the video is hilarious. You see like a couple of them try and run out and the cops are like, nah, you just stay here. We're giving all of you tickets tonight. Yeah. So it's got to really take the wind out of your sails to go protest after the second night out after you've got a $650 ticket, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they all should have done then.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. It's like you want to protest the first night, that's fine. But I mean, if a riot breaks out and a bunch of businesses get burned down and you show up the second night, no, you're like, look, you're contributing to the problem here.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. Especially if it's some lame thing like this. It isn't even true.
Right. No sympathy.
Yeah.
Engaging in property damage at a nearby protest on the questionable basis that those people allegedly had mud on their shoes. The music festival was held in a forest. One of those legal observers was an attorney with the Southern Poverty Law Center and the National Lawyers Guild. Footage appears to show Thomas Jurgens being arrested while wearing one of the neon green hats that identifies NLG legal observers. We had some different...
They say that like being a legal observer, some magical shield that means that you just get to stand around while people commit criminal activities, apparently, so assuming he wasn't even part of it, and you're just, that's fine. he can just partake in a possible riot, and you're like, listen, I'm a legal observer. Okay, it's totally fine.
Has Cornel West left the building or something? I mean,
Oh yeah, that's a good point. This
like
he's reading this whole article. He's going through this whole stuff. Cornel West is just sitting there like listening to this. What is the point of all this nonsense?
If I'm Cornel West, I'm like, what the hell, dude? Like,
he's just doing a segment.
Like, get to the point.
Yes.
What am I doing here?
Yes.
You could have sent me this article ahead of time and said, hey, I want to talk about this situation.
Right.
This is like the height of disrespect here.
This is kind of
just the height of disrespect.
Right.
And to assume that, look, Cornel West doesn't understand what's going on in the news. Look, if this is important, Cornel West knows about it. If it's not important, you should shut the F up and let him talk.
Well, he's trying to make an argument to the audience. Okay.
Yeah, that Cornel West is
soft on fascism.
I don't know. Look, this is ridiculous and frankly kind of boring. So
he does this twice.
Yeah.
He does this twice. He's talking to the Cornel West. He's like, let me take 5 minutes to just read you an article.
Yeah.
Difference is when I say we, I mean myself and the Attorney General's office about who should be charged with what they should be charged with, Boston told WABE. She added that Juergen's case was one of the touch points of a number of touch points that ultimately led me to make the decision that I have made here now. The value set of our office is that I will only proceed on cases that I believe I can make beyond a reasonable doubt. The RICO charges also name 3 activists who were arrested this summer and charged with money laundering and charity fraud.
Yeah, let's skip to get through this. Just going to read more of the article.
Yeah, we already summed it up. I mean,
right.
I know what's going on here.
Right.
And,
blah, blah, blah. Defending Antifa. This is just going, the whole time, Cornel's just sitting here. Well, just going on and on and on and on and on. Reading this Antifa propaganda.
Yeah, from the Daily Beast.
Right.
From the Daily Socialist.
Is not about enforcing the law. It's a desperate overreach in an attempt to discredit legitimate political opposition, and it won't work. That's exactly what they're doing to Donald Trump. That's exactly what they'll do to you. That's exactly what they'll do to Bernie Sanders. That's exactly what they'll do to me. They'll do to anybody who is a threat to the establishment. And
let me get a word in. Let me get a word in.
So I'm going to let you. So I just want you to. So
absolutely.
Go ahead. Take it where you will.
I like that Jimmy Dore was like, listen, they're going to go after me, everyone. I'm going to get arrested. Me sitting here shouting at my internet show. They're going to come after me. In fascist America. It's like, okay. I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm kind of sick of all these armchair socialists who sit in a room complaining about how we live in an authoritarian fascist dictatorship, trying to basically rile up their audience to engage in stochastic terrorism while they sit comfortably in a room making, thousands of dollars.
Right. But we're supposed to worry about them being a target of the deep state.
Yes, apparently.
Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.